Let me start with Georgia, because Georgia is trying to do something that has become increasingly rare in college football, and that is to be a back-to-back champ. Now, we've seen it before, of course, yes, but it doesn't happen very often. And in particular with the quick cycles of personnel in recruiting in college football, that's one of the reasons why it doesn't happen. And they are dominant, totally dominant. Who's been the best team in the country the last 2 years? Georgia. And to be honest, it hasn't been all that close. In fact, if you look at their last 33 games that they've played, they're 32-1. And that semifinal game against Ohio State was only the fifth time in those 33 games that they trailed during any point of a fourth quarter. That's pretty special. This is a dominant bunch. Kirby Smart has done a phenomenal job. Only Alabama recruits really on their level. You know, those two teams recruit at a totally different level. I guess you can say Texas A&M did for a little bit. You know, Ohio State has had classes that have been up there, but year over year, these are the two teams that pull in the most amount of talent. And Kirby has done a wonderful job of making sure that they are a balanced team, both offensively and defensively. And I think that they probably get a bad rap for being a team that is, we're just going to run the ball and we're just going to be about defense. That is not true. In fact, there were only 4 teams in the country that you could say this year they were throwing it for over 265 yards and they were rushing it for over 200 yards. Like, that's pretty good balance, and only 4 teams can say that. By the way, 2 of them are in this game, TCU and Georgia. Oregon can say that, and Florida State can say that. So they've achieved some very good balance. They've also got balance on defense. While they didn't have great sack numbers for the entirety of the season, they have been able to put some pressure on the quarterback during the course of big matchups, namely Tennessee. They got to Stroud a few times in big moments, so they can put pressure on the quarterback. Their best trait is their ability to just stop the run with those defensive tackles, guys like Jalen Carter in there. They build that run front, and then they're fast. I mean, they are fast. And that's one thing that I'll also talk about with TCU is that these are 2 of the fastest teams in the country. And I'm not talking about just speed on the offensive side, although they both have that. I'm talking about speed at the second and third level on defense. I think it separates each of these teams, and it clearly separates Georgia. Georgia is a team with an immense amount of speed, and that speed allows them to make up for mistakes. Every defense is going to make up for mistakes. And every defensive coordinator will tell you, like, listen, we don't get to punt on defense. Like, our mistakes don't end in us just saying, like, well, you know, kick it away and rely on our defense. There's nothing to rely on for a defense other than the end zone. That's it. That's all you can rely on as a defense. And so the only eraser that you have is the ability to run. And Georgia has that. So even when schematically they're misaligned, which rarely happens, or if somebody doesn't do their job, or if they get beat, what they can do is they can get the ball to the ground and live to snap it another day, generally speaking. And the reason they can do that is speed. And I think that's their superpower on defense, even for everything that they do in the defensive front, which is strong, very strong on the defensive line. Their ability to run is, I think, what really separates them. Then on offense, what they are is balanced. I just talked to you about that balance, their ability to throw it and run it. I think the guy, obviously Stetson Bennett plays well in big moments, okay? So if we just say to ourselves, do we think Stetson Bennett's going to play well? I do. I absolutely do. He generally does in big moments. When you look at the last 6 games against top 15 teams, this guy's been outstanding. Over 70%, over 280 yards, I think 16 touchdowns. I think only 1 interception during that time frame. Like, he's been outstanding in big moments, and this is a big moment. But I think the actual key to being a really good balanced offense is actually having the hybrid H-back or tight end. When you look at really good teams as far as their ability to run it and throw it, they generally speaking have a good hybrid style tight end, and that's exactly what Georgia has, and really a great room of tight ends. But Brock Bowers allows them to do things both in the run game and in the pass game that make them dominant. There's clips from the SEC championship game of him just owning, in run blocking, just owning the edge defender. The edge defender who's responsible for outside contain has to keep his outside arm free. Brock Bowers owns his outside arm, mashes him down, and the ball jumps outside for an explosive run, right? Like, that's really good. Now, generally speaking, tight ends that are able to do that and are great blockers are not dynamic in the passing game. It's so rare to find a guy that can do what he does in the run game and come out and be a total matchup nightmare in the passing game, and he's able to do that. He can split out as a wide receiver. He can beat you. He understands nuance. He understands timing and spacing against zone. And then you can put him in line as a traditional tight end, and then he becomes a real matchup nightmare because it's like, well, who do you put on him? Okay, fine, put a linebacker on him. He's just going to run right by that linebacker right down the seam of the defense. Like, the guy is a heck of a player, and he's the catalyst to their balance. Their tight end room is the catalyst to their balance because they can stay in a run-heavy set or a run personnel or even an 11 personnel and run the ball effectively, but they can also throw the ball effectively. And I think that's what really makes Georgia dangerous on the offensive side. So that's them on offense and defense. I talked about their speed and obviously the way that they've been so good in their last 33. Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoy that clip, make sure you click subscribe somewhere down here. From game highlights to exclusive interviews and rankings, we've got everything you need as a college football fan right here, College Football on Fox.